It was called the most famous kiss of the Civil War era, a kiss that helped spark a fratricidal holocaust. Journalists wrote about it, poets rhapsodized about it, painters committed the kiss to canvas. And one man, it seems, made a modest living all his life as the kissee. If only it happened. If only it was true. John Brown did not kiss a baby, as you see here. Painter Thomas Hovenden got almost everything else right in this painting, which he did in the 1880s. The uniforms of the soldiers are accurate. The look of the baby's mother is accurate. But it was this painting which brought the famous kiss of John Brown to its zenith of fame and then exploded the myth entirely. No, John Brown didn't kiss that adorable little baby as he left the jail December 2nd, 1859, on his way to the gallows and his own hanging, although many wanted to believe such an inspiring myth. But we have to thank Cecil Eby, a native of Charlestown and historian, who set the story right once and for all in an article he wrote for the Virginia Cavalcade magazine in 1961. Here's what Cecil Eby wrote. The morning of December 2nd, 1859 broke clear and bright over Charlestown. By 9 o'clock, it had become so unseasonably hot that doors and windows all over town were thrown open. At shortly after 10 o'clock, under the supervision of Captain Avis and Sheriff James Campbell, John Brown left his cell with his arms pinioned behind him, and he was guided through the front door of the jail, located at the corner of Washington and George Streets. From there, John Brown rode a wagon to the gallows nearby, where he was hanged. 1,500 militiamen and 1,000 civilian spectators saw the hanging. These were the observable details relating to the passage of John Brown from jail to gallows. There were no demonstrations either of joy or sorrow. The execution of Brown was marked by a formality bordering upon an elaborate and dignified ceremony. Yet only 3 days later, Horace Greeley's newspaper, the New York Tribune, carried a fantastic, unsigned report of the execution, which for 25 years passed among the credulous as the genuine ending of the John Brown story. And its most startling passage was as follows. As he stepped out of the door, a black woman with a little child in arms stood near his way. His thought at the moment none can know, except as his acts interpret them. He stopped for a moment in his course, stooped over, and with the tenderness of one whose love is as broad as the brotherhood of man, kissed it affectionately. In Amesbury, Massachusetts, John Greenleaf Whittier, a Quaker, read the account of Brown at the Charlestown jail and was converted. Abandoning his resolution to have nothing to do with the Brown fracas in Virginia, Whittier took pen in hand and within a week completed his ballad, Brown of Osawatomie, which was first published in the New York Independent on December 22nd.
Hush, little baby,
John Brown of Osawatomie spake on his dying day, I will not have to shrive my soul a priest in slavery's pay, but let some poor slave mother, whom I have striven to free, with her children from the gallows stair, put up a prayer for me. John Brown of Osawatomie, they let him out to die, and lo, a poor slave mother, with her little child pressed high. Then the bold blue eye grew tender, and his face grew mild, and he stooped between the jeering ranks, and kissed the Negro's child. Cecil Eby put it this way. Next to the kiss of Judas, It became perhaps the most influential kiss in history. As the tale of John Brown's kiss grew bigger, more epical, and legendary, several painters tried their hand at capturing that moment. But it was Thomas Hovenden's painting The Last Moments of John Brown, completed in 1884, that brought the child-kissing legend to its peak, setting off a historical debate about its veracity, which killed off the story entirely. It took an affidavit by Captain John Avis of Charlestown to set the story right, which went like this. Nothing of the sort occurred. Nothing of the sort could have occurred, for John Brown's hands, as usual in such cases, were confined behind him before he left the jail. He was between Sheriff Campbell and me, and a guard of soldiers surrounded him and allowed no person to come between them and the prisoner from the jail to the scaffold, except as escorts. John Avis's affidavit did begin setting the story straight, and Owen Carter of Charlestown began to have less visitors who wanted to hear a story about being the kissee. But Cecil Eby discovered something surprising. John Brown did kiss a child. A letter uncovered at Cornell University, written by Charles Fulton, the editor of the Baltimore American and an eyewitness of the events, notes that John Brown, as he passed through the corridor of the jail, met Mrs. John Avis, holding her young son in her arms. He stopped to bid her farewell, and then kissed her child before resuming his march.